Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. It's a pretty simple premise today, folks. Do you like dive watches? Do you like Japanese dive watches? Do you like Orient dive watches? Do you like the Orient Kamasu? But do you find the Kamasu a little bit too small for you? Congratulations, you've just found your next watch, the Orient Triton. It's pretty much a Kamasu that went back for second helpings at the buffet consistently. Now, somewhat unhelpfully, this is one of two watches in Orient's collection that they label the Triton. Perhaps you are familiar with the older and more expensive version with the power reserve indicator and the logo above the 6. This new model was launched in 2020 and offers a similar look but for less money. People have been referring to it, perhaps unsurprisingly, as the Triton LITE. Now, the best thing about the Triton LITE is that it's a big watch for the price of a small watch. It's exactly the same price as its little brother, the Orient Kamasu. Now, you saw the pop-up, indeed perhaps you remember this one from the unboxing. This watch was sent to me for free by JOMASHOP. I do not have to send it back. They have 4 different colour variants of this Triton LITE in stock at the moment, priced from $215 to $235. I will of course leave links in the description of the video as always. So where does this watch fit into the pantheon of Japanese dive watches, and is it any good? Let's flip the camera and find out. Yet another Orient review on the channel then. I did say this year I was going to review more Orients than in the past. I just didn't expect them all to be in the same calendar month. My apologies if the content has been a little unbalanced recently therefore. In my defense, they've all been great watches, and this one is no exception to that rule. As discussed, it is essentially a larger version of the Kamasu. It has the same movement. I suspect it has the same bracelet as well, apart from the end links. So it does come down to a choice of what you prefer, a 41 or a 43. So 43 millimeters in diameter. It's only 13 millimeters thick though, which isn't too bad. The key dimension for me with this one anyway is the lug to lug, that being 50.6. Whether or not you go for this over the Kamasu does depend on the diameter dimension, but whether or not it actually fits your wrist will depend to a greater extent on that lug to lug. It has an identical lug width though of 22, tapering down to 20, back up to 21.5 at the clasp. Sized up for me, 7-inch wrist, it is a beefy boy, 169 grams. All 316L, stainless steel case, crown, bezel and full stainless bracelet. Now the crown is screwed down, 200 meters of water resistant, but it's not ISO rated, neither is its little brother. The bracelet, well, you get those hollow end links. The links themselves are okay, just push pins holding it all together, and it's a carryover clasp as well. So it's a big flappy fold over, double security pushers, just pressed on the underside. 4 holes of micro adjust though. Talking of pressed, the Orient logo is also pressed into it. Case finish is pretty simple, a mixture of brushed and polished, high polish to the side, and it's a brushed finish to the upper lug surface and to the upper surface of those crown guards. It's a well guarded crown at 4 o'clock. The crown itself has the Orient logo just printed on there. The bezel has an aluminium insert with a recessed lume pip up there at 12. It's 120 click, unidirectional rotating dive time, which is what you'd expect. The action is okay. There's a little bit of backplay before it locks, but everything does line up quite nicely. The bezel itself is quite thin, but it's got a reasonable amount of grip. Borderline sharp. I think it falls on the right side of the border though, so it's grippy, but it's not going to catch and it's not going to chafe on your clothing or on bits of furniture, importantly. Case back stainless steel and screw on printed with that double dolphin logo and a bunch of specification information, including about the movement. This one contains an F6722, which is exactly the same movement as found in the Kamasu, apart from this one only features a date as opposed to a day date. 22 joules, hacking and hand winding, 40-hour power reserve, stated tolerances of -15 to +25 out of the factory. This one running pretty much in the middle of those at +12, +13 seconds per day. Obviously 3 Hz beat rate, so 21,600 vibrations per hour, 6 ticks of the second hand per second, all pretty standard stuff really. Let's take it outside for a quick look at the dial and hands under macro, and I must say I think it's a handsome design. I think it's far less fussy than the Kamasu. It's not exactly setting the world alight though, is it? Certainly not in this black colour way. Those indices are applied. I'll show you a zoom in just a second or two. They're actually really nice. Silver surrounds on those, high polished silver flat hands. Now the dial itself is black. It looks kind of glossy, but it is slightly granular in texture as well. The Orient logo on this one is just printed on in white with the red shield. That's above the pinion, water resistant 20 bar printed beneath the pinion. Minute track around the outer edge and a date complication at the 4 o'clock. More on that later. But have a look at it from this angle. That is sapphire crystal, just like the Kamasu covering the dial here, by the way. You can see what I mean about that granular finish to it. You can also see what I mean about the richness and the depth that come from proper applied indices. I like how you can see the shadow of that second hand sweeping over the dial as well. It's actually really nice for a $215 dive watch from a big Japanese brand. As is the loom. Now the Kamasu won an episode of Loom Wars. I have no doubt that if I picked the right 7 competitors, the Triton would win its episode of Loom Wars as well. Very, very strong thanks to those applied indices, I'm sure, and a carryover handset. If I turn the speed up on these, you can see that the indices do fade first. It's the hands that hang on. That's what won it for the Kamasu. That's what would win it for this Triton. Very impressive loom for the money. On wrist, it wears big, quite frankly. I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference, and I can really notice that 50.6mm lug tip to lug tip. Also, the fact that the bracelet isn't exactly amazing quality means that most of that 169 grams is located in the head of the watch, and you can feel it. This would do really well on rubber, I feel. On this applied bracelet, yeah, it's definitely a bit top heavy and a little bit bobbly. Overhead legibility is actually pretty good though. It's a decent sized watch after all. Not sure how much, if any, anti-reflective undercoating is beneath that sapphire crystal, so you've got to watch your angles, but from most of them, it's fine. Moans and niggles. Well, the hollow end links in the bracelet certainly make their presence felt, don't they? You can see right through them from some angles. There's definitely too much play there, and yeah, you can hear them as well. And then there's that date complication at the 4 o'clock. I've got nothing against 4 o'clock dates per se, but what I do have a problem with is split indices. That is a crime against indices. Look at that little half moon there. Reminds me of the Solar Seiko Sumo chronograph that I reviewed last year. I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. If not, then what? Well, Seiko Turtle Samurai would be the obvious rivals for this one in terms of the dimensions, but not in terms of the price. You're looking at $280 for an entry-level Turtle these days. That is a chunk more cash than they're asking for the Triton. And if you want sapphire crystal with your Turtle, sir, that'll cost you in excess of $400 these days. The prices have certainly gone up on Seikos, haven't they? But personally, I would still be opting for the Kamasu. It's not the diameter dimension that bothers me about the Triton, it's that long lug to lug of 50. Look at the difference in length between these two watches. It is noticeable. Seiko know how to make a big watch wear like a small watch. Orient, it seems, know how to make a big watch wear like a big watch. But if you like a big watch, if you have a big wrist, then this should definitely be on your shopping list. Everything else seems to have gone up in price over the last 2 years, apart from base model Orient watches. I've said this before, it bears repeating again today. $215 is a great price for a big brand Japanese dive watch if you've got the wrist for it. So there you have it. No surprises from the Orient Triton LITE then. If you're okay with a 50mm lug to lug, then it's a rock solid choice for $215. If, on the other hand, this is too big for you, definitely check out the Kamasu. If you want to go Seiko, you're probably looking at spending another $100 to get something with sapphire, that being the King Samurai. Thanks for watching this video. I will see you again in a future one, I hope.